Why, hello everyone, and welcome to another TwoSun Tuesday. This time I'm taking a look at one that I've kind of sat on the fence a little bit, so I'm fairly late to the party on it. This has probably already been taken a look at by quite a few people out there, so I don't necessarily know how much usefulness this might have for somebody with the amount of reviews out there. But hey, I still want to throw my 2 cents in. So yes, this is TS129 from NightMorning Design. This guy's an M390 steel. Nice carbon fiber. Very highly polished, so it can get just a little slippery if your hands get a little moist or damp or any of those other words for wet that might not bother you that much, since some of them do for some people, I guess. Yeah, size comparisons for this guy. That's something that I forgot to do the first time around, so yeah, here we are with these guys. We got the Benchmade 940, we got the Spyderco PM2. We got about the same blade length and everything kind of going on there, but a little bit shorter handle. Oh, let's see. There's a Spyderco Endura. That's kind of a big boy, but that's okay. We also got the Kalashnikov 74. This is the Desert Warrior pattern, but I'm very amused by the Simpsons donut knife, essentially. So it's not exactly a tiny knife. However, it is just a little tiny bit smaller than I first thought that it was. Looking at a lot of the pictures there, I did think that the handle was probably, just a little bit longer on there, like maybe another half inch or so. But it wasn't. So when I first pulled it out of the box, I was a little miffed, I guess, just thinking that, this is actually just a little bit smaller than I thought it was. But it's actually really grown on me quite a bit. What I had first noticed is doing kind of a relaxed saber grip. It's basically a 3.5 finger sort of grip for me there. But if I do, actually choke up, get all 4 fingers on there and not relaxed, then it is a full 4-finger grip. And, that's also the same for that hammer grip sort of thing going on there. And we also have a nice flat section there between the titanium, steel, and carbon fiber. And you can easily choke up on there if you really do want to get super, super close. And that does definitely give you more handle length to grip onto. It's nice and contoured on both sides, which it would be a little weird to have it contoured on one side and then just a complete flat slab on the other. I don't think it would be anywhere near as comfortable, but I suppose you could do it. It does have a hole deployment. Now it's not a full circle because Spyderco has, international patents or trademarks or whatnot on that. They do allow for some custom makers to do it on some of their knives if the production count is low. I think it's under 1 or 200 or something like that, but not for any production knives or whatnot. That's why you don't see other companies do that unless they're collaborating with Spyderco. That's why we have this kind of eggplant kind of looking thing here. It's nice and round up top there, so it's very, very comfortable to just fling that blade out there. And yeah, the detent for that is pretty darn good. Really nice and satisfying with a kerchunk. And a little bit of that might be you kind of putting just a little bit of force onto the lock bar there. I mean, for the most part, I can have it right on the pocket clip like I usually do. And it still feels just, super nice and crisp. But it also is not very difficult to deal with for the top flipper. So that's kind of interesting, how they can have it, let go fairly easily there, but still feel like it's got a nice purchase on the inside there for deploying it with the thumb. I like that quite a bit. As I had mentioned at the top of it, this is out of M390. This one took me a heck of a long time to sharpen. I don't necessarily know why. I didn't take off all that much to be able to sharpen it up, but it took me quite a while. It's not necessarily the only indicator of whether or not a steel is great or not, but I do have high hopes for this one's performance. So, that's something that I'm absolutely happy with because, that M390 lottery that happens with a whole lot of companies definitely does happen here. And I've, for the most part, I think, lucked out on that. So that's fantastic there. We do have an external lock bar relief, which is kind of one thing that I wish was just a little bit different. I mean, we are contoured here, but there is machine milling that's done on the inside here that we'll take a look at when we open it up. So if we do have machine milling on both sides, I usually do prefer having internal lock bar relief just to keep that outside just looking a little bit more sanitary. But that's just a little niggle that I can say from time to time. So this pocket clip here is, it's not just a single point. It's not super wide, but it does a pretty darn good job of getting up there. So you don't really have too many difficult times trying to get this into your pocket. Obviously coming out, not really all that much of a big deal. But yeah, this one does slide in there pretty darn good. We also have the lanyard hole on the back here with a little bit of a channel cut out on both sides up to basically the one Chicago screw or whatnot that you end up having there. It is kind of an interesting way that they did that because they have it kind of just a little bit carved down in there. They've basically cut down on the screw sticking up a little bit more. Like, obviously it is a little proud, but it's much more subdued than it is on some of their others. So that's kind of an interesting sort of thing going on there. Yeah, I also really like the tall blade that this thing has. It, to me, seems probably about as close as I've seen so far on a TwoSun to coming into one of those leaf-shaped blades that I really, really, really like from Spyderco. This is the Manix 2XL. Obviously, it's going to be a larger knife overall. I think this thing is a little bit more to the size of a standard Manix 2. But yeah, they have the leaf-shaped blades on the Manix and the Native series and a couple others. But I really do like that blade shape. This one gets fairly close to it. It's got a little bit more of a sheepsfoot subdued blade there at the end. But that's perfectly fine. Still makes it nice and useful. It's just maybe not the absolute most piercy sort of knife on the planet. But very, very useful for doing a lot of utility cuts. Because the point is relatively easy to get to. It's a tall blade, so I can really get a nice comfortable pinch grip kind of going on there. If I do want to take that blade down a couple of inches, then that works out a fantastic way to do that. All right, so I want to go ahead and take a look on the inside of this thing here. It's very easy to take apart. Something I didn't mention is the pocket clip is actually attached from a screw on the inside. I do really like that as a design decision. I do think it's a little minimized here because that looks nice, but when you still have that external lock bar relief, kind of takes away from it just a little bit. But yeah, that's just, me and my preferences getting all up in the way. So yeah, now that we got it all taken apart, we basically have the bearing races on both sides. No liner here for the carbon fiber. Really doesn't need it. It has zero flex to it, probably because it's actually a fairly thick piece that they've started with and contoured it quite a bit. We also have an internal blade stop pin, which does not expose itself to the elements. It's fully encapsulated inside the handle scales there. I really, really like that with bearing knives because it helps a lot in having, dust, dirt, sand, other detritus and whatnot from making its way into the bearing mechanisms, which isn't super great. So to do that, it really just kind of seals that up, just makes it a lot more difficult for it to get dirty on the inside, which is something you do need to keep in mind from time to time with bearing knives. We have one blade pin there for stabilizing that goes through both sides. And yeah, there's where the pocket clip ends up screwing on there. I do actually want to... okay, yeah. Just making sure that it's super tight. But yeah, very, very easy to take apart and put back together for maintenance. Not a whole lot of parts to go in there. Welcome to wrist cam as I tighten the pivot down. Something that I have noticed with this one in particular is that some of these guys, some of their earlier ones with the satin finish on there, have that satin finish go pretty deep, and that is definitely the case here. And what that ends up doing is you can actually feel it. You've probably heard some people talk about it when you're closing the knife and it kind of feels a bit zippy, like a zipper or something like that. If you could hear that as I was moving it around. And that's basically because the satin on there is fairly deep, so the detent ball there kind of rides on that. I do plan on kind of taking care of that on this one a little bit. I do have some felt polishing things for my Dremel tool here. These black ones have had have already been used a little bit. They have stropping compound, otherwise known as jeweler's rouge, on them, and it'll probably work super great. I'm actually waiting for a vise to come in so I can clamp a blade on there so I don't have to hold it in one hand. I can just kind of hold on to the vise, or actually suction it down to the table, whatever. It just seems like it will be just a little bit more convenient for trying to polish that up. But yeah, because of that, you know, this thing isn't super incredibly drop shutty. It's definitely wiggle shut for sure. But if you do swing it down there after you get over the detent, which is right here, so it's fairly early, in case you're worried about a late detent, it's pretty darn good. But yeah, you can feel it a little bit when you're closing it up, and I would like to kind of remedy that just a little tiny bit. Yeah, this thing's really, really grown on me since I've had it. I've had it for a couple of weeks now. Obviously enough time to use it, play around with it, sharpen it, clean it up, blah, 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 do all that sort of good fun stuff that I end up doing with them. And yeah, like I said, it's grown on me quite a bit. It's quite comfortable. You know, it might not be the absolute epitome of comfort for me doing a relaxed saber grip with it, but it's certainly still stable in my hands. All right, so one last thing that we have to do here is... There we go. I didn't have them with me. My measurement stuff here. All right. Start with the weight here. So on the inside, that yeah, it does have a little bit of pocketing kind of going on the inside there. Mostly on the back half. It isn't super severe or anything like that, but yeah, we're coming in just a smidge over 4 ounces there, or 115 grams, right around that area there. So it's definitely not, you know, the lightest weight thing on the planet, but, you know, it's not super bulky or anything like that. I think the PM2 is probably just a little bit lighter than that, but this also just basically has kind of some half steel liners in there. It's not a titanium frame lock, so there's that. Let's look at the blade length here. Well, actually, since I'm on millimeters, screw it. We'll look at the blade stock thickness first, just so I don't have to switch around on that a little bit. And yeah, this one's 4. So it's not, you know, starting out at the super crazy sliceiest thing, but it's very, very high flat grind. It's not the absolute thinnest behind the edge, but I will say that it's thinner than probably average for a lot of pocket knives, especially larger ones. So it does a pretty darn good job at doing all that slicing sort of stuff here. Oops. 0 U out. Not that 0.01 of a millimeter is going to matter all that much. But yeah, we got 0.54, so due to the contouring, just a touch thicker than the PM2 there. And the blade length on this guy. Let's see. We got just under 3.5 inches, whereas I thought this was originally 3.7, which would probably extend the handle out just a little bit larger so that it would fit what my mind thought that it was. But there you go. There's all the measurements, the inside, the outside, the upside, the downside, inside, the outside, all that sort of good stuff. Yeah, as I had said, you know, probably everybody and their mother, especially those who have had them sent in from people who are, you know, kind of in the happy collectors group of TwoSun, have probably taken a look at this. So I don't necessarily know how much more detail that I could have given that anybody else probably hasn't covered yet. But I'm kind of late to the party here, and well, I mean, this channel does do a lot of stuff with TwoSun since I do collect quite a few of them. So this was kind of my take on it. I really do like it quite a bit. I think I might like it just a tiny bit more if the handle was just a little bit longer, but that's just for me and my kind of large hands there. I wear an extra large glove sort of thing, so if you wear like large to, you know, medium, blah, 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 this thing is probably absolutely fantastic for you. But, I mean, with that whole hand sort of thing there, that probably has to do with a little bit of why I really want them to do a full military using the compression lock instead of the liner lock. Just because I end up liking that a little bit more, and it might actually give me a little bit more thumb space there, where we have that sort of thing with the compression lock. The back of my thumb ends up getting in there, and it doesn't, you know, I'm only riding on that little bit there. I do actually think that the CME from OCD for EDC, the little compression made easy attachment that you would get there, would probably take care of a little bit of that. And that'd be pretty cool, but I still would like a longer blade than that. Oh well. All right. I appreciate y'all for watching. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day, yo. It's a little bit of a script, guy.